Okay, so today, as promised, we will go ahead and use a calculator. But before we touch a calculator, I want to make sure that we are doing a good job in setting it up. Then we can use a calculator. Now, today we're going to learn two different methods. Okay, we're going to learn two different methods. One is known as the reduced echelon form, and the other one is called the inverse matrix. So we have two different methods. Now, let me give you a good overview. Ultimately, you get to choose one of these two methods. You do not need to perform both, but I want to show you both so that you can choose whichever one you like better. Each one has its own pros and cons. I asked my earlier classes, they would I would later share with you what they like and what they don't like, okay, about each method. Now, but before we touch a calculator, we need to make sure that we can set it up. Now, let's take a look at this. Now, what you see here is called a matrix. Now, how many of you have watched the movie Matrix? Okay, so I think you can think of matrix with a bunch of numbers. That's basically what it is. But now, what we are going to do is that we will use matrix to find out our solution. Yesterday, we practiced writing equations, and we said there are three variables. We could solve it by hand, but it's going to be time consuming. What we could do is to use matrix and a calculator so that we can get our answers a lot easier, like 10 times faster. But first, we need to know how to create such matrix. So what I would like you to do is that, can you figure out how these numbers come to here? Where do these numbers come from? Equations, right? Can you see this number 6? Where does this number 6 come from? 6x, right? And the 1 comes from the y, and the negative 1 comes from the negative 1z, and the negative 2 comes from here. And then we go to the next row and we say, hey, can you tell where this one comes from? And the 6, okay, and the 3, and the 23, right here. And now, this is why your structure, your organization is very important. So what you realize is that the first column right here, they're all coefficients of x. The second column is they are all coefficients of y. The third column, they're all coefficients of z. And the last column, they're all constants. Okay, let me write this better. So they're all constants. All right, so I'm just labeling so that you know where they come from. Okay, so so I will show you how to type in the calculator, but first I want to make sure that you can write this one out. So now, if I may ask you to do this, go to question number 1, and could you go ahead and create a matrix based on the set of equations that you have on the left? So the first, again, the numbers in columns, they are the coefficients of x, y, and z, and the constants. So for the first number that we put in here, it will be 1, and then -3, and then -1, and then -9. Can you all see why how we locate the numbers and put it here? All right, the next row, the next equation will be 3, -7, 1, and -9. So you need to make sure that all the x, y, z's are in good order. And if something is not in order, or if something that's missing, like the third equation, we are missing a z. So what do? We put in a 0, because the only reason why it's not there is because the coefficient is 0. All right, are we good? Okay, so now, if you're good, all right, then we are going to use a calculator to do this. So at this point, go ahead, get a calculator. So after you turn on your calculator, you go to calculate, and you should see a blank screen like this. If it's not blank, that's fine. Just start a new row. If you want to make it blank like this, you can simply go to, you can press the dock button, and then you can choose B option, or you can just type in B and it will clear the scratch pad. And now you have a blank slate to work with. And now, how are we going to use the matrix we just wrote? And then how do we solve it? So the reduced row echelon method is that we will go ahead, type in RREF, and then open parentheses. Now, this is only for the reduced row echelon form method. So you type in RREF. All right, and then do not forget, okay, do not forget that you have to type in the parentheses. A lot of students, they focus on the RREF, they focus on the matrix, and they somehow forget to type in the open parentheses. All right, now, so what do we do now? We have to insert a matrix. So we will go to menu, because that's pretty much the only key that's reasonable to click. We click the menu. Can you see the word matrix? Which is option number 7. You may use the arrow key to go there, or you can just go ahead, type 7. It goes straight to that option. I like to type 7 because that's faster. And then we are going to create a matrix. So we choose option 1, create, and we are creating a simple matrix. So just option 1 right there. Now it's going to ask you how many rows and columns, and let me just make sure that everyone is on the same page. Horizontal, it's called the rows. Vertical are the columns. All right, so we have how many rows in the matrix? 3 rows. And then here's another button I want to show you. It's a very underutilized button that I want to show you. There's a button called tap. Okay, you also have a tap button on the keyboard, on an actual computer keyboard, but here there's a tap button. If you tap, if you finish typing 3 and then you press tap, it goes to the next entry box. And you go ahead and change it to 4. And after that, you can simply press enter. You don't have to do the scroll thing and press OK. No, you can just go ahead and press enter, and you will get this matrix. And what are we going to do with this matrix? You're going to type in the numbers. All right, so the matrix that we just created, we can go ahead and okay, so we continue to type in numbers. So for the second row, we will put in 3 minus, oh, sorry. We'll type in 3 minus 7, 1, -9, and then -2, 3, 0, and 7. After typing all the numbers, you press enter. Okay, and this is the interpretation part. Well, what are we showing here? Well, if you know how to interpret the columns, right? These are, the first column is X, and the second column is Y, and the third column is Z, and the last column is the constant. What this result is practically showing you is that the first row tells you X is equal to -2. The second row, Y is equal to 1. The third row is Z equals to 4. So by just typing in all the numbers, the calculator does everything for you. You don't have to worry about how to do elimination and substitution, and that's just it. Okay, and so on the paper, you will write down parentheses -2, comma 1, comma 4 as your solution. Okay, so let me go ahead and change the screen real quick. So you would write down -2, comma 1, comma 4 as a solution. Okay, so again, when you put into your calculator, if you're using the reduced row echelon form, you will go ahead, type in RREF. Okay, so I'm just going to write it out here so that you can see the mental processing. So RREF parentheses, then you input the whole matrix in there. All right, so now pretty easy. Okay, not that hard. Definitely better than solving the whole system of equations by hand. So that's how we will use the reduced row echelon form in this case.